There comes a moment when the heart feels too heavy to carry, when every prayer feels unanswered, and every breath feels like a struggle. You look at the sky and whisper, "Why me?" But what if that pain was never meant to break you? What if it was meant to bring you back to the one who never left? This is the journey from despair to Doa, from darkness to light, from heartbreak to healing. When despair enters your life, it feels like the world has come crashing down. The silence becomes deafening, and every heartbeat feels heavy with pain. But in that breaking, something divine is unfolding. Allah allows the walls you built to fall, not to punish you, but to free you from what was never meant to hold you. What you thought was your end is often your beginning, the start of your awakening, the call of your soul to return to its true source of peace. When your plans fall apart and the people you depended on leave, you begin to see how fragile worldly attachments really are. Every disappointment strips away another layer of illusion, revealing that nothing and no one has power over your heart except the one who created it. Allah removes what distracts you so that you can finally notice Him in the emptiness. The collapse of what you relied on is not cruelty. It is mercy disguised as loss. In those moments of deep sorrow, when your tears fall faster than words, remember that Allah sees you. He hears the cries you can't express, the ones buried beneath your silence. Your pain is not a sign of abandonment. It's a whisper from the divine, reminding you that you were never alone. Sometimes Allah allows you to taste the bitterness of life, so you will crave the sweetness of His nearness. When you fall to your knees, broken and desperate, that is where real strength is born. Because surrendering before Allah is not weakness, it is the highest form of courage. It is admitting that you cannot carry the weight alone and trusting that the one who gave you life knows exactly how to heal it. In that surrender, the heart softens, faith deepens, and despair begins to dissolve into hope. So when everything around you falls apart, don't see it as the end. See it as your invitation to rise again. But this time, not with your own strength. Rise with the strength that comes from knowing that Allah was never gone. He was simply waiting for you to return. Despair is not your destruction. It's your awakening, a sacred reminder that even in the darkest night, the path to His light is still open. Pain is one of the deepest languages the soul speaks. It has a way of breaking the illusions we build around ourselves, stripping us of false strength and control. When Allah allows heartbreak or loss, it is not an act of cruelty. It is an invitation to look within. Pain has a purpose. It exposes what we cling to, what we idolize, and what we believe we cannot live without. It's a gentle yet powerful reminder that nothing in this world is permanent, and that the peace we search for cannot be found in the creation, but only in the Creator. When everything you relied on begins to slip away, you start to see the reality of your heart. You realize how much you depended on people, how much you tied your happiness to circumstances, and how fragile those things truly are. Pain forces you to confront what you've been avoiding, to see yourself with honesty and humility. It peels away the layers of distraction until you are left with only you and Allah. In that raw silence, something beautiful happens. You begin to understand that every heartbreak was never to destroy you, but to purify your heart from what was never meant to stay. Sometimes the soul needs to be shaken to awaken. When comfort makes us forget our dependence on Allah, pain brings us back to Him. It humbles the heart, reminding it that it was never self-sufficient. The moments that hurt the most often carry the greatest lessons, because through them, Allah teaches us patience, surrender, and trust. Every tear that falls in those moments washes away a layer of arrogance and replaces it with sincerity. That's why, after hardship, A believer often becomes softer, wiser, and more connected to the divine. When you finally stop resisting the pain and begin to surrender, healing starts to unfold. You learn that peace doesn't come from fixing everything around you. It comes from aligning your heart with Allah's will. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start whispering, "Ya Allah, guide me through this." That shift in focus transforms the very same pain that once broke you into a source of strength and clarity. The burden that once felt unbearable becomes lighter because it's now carried with faith, not fear. And in the end, you realize that pain was never the enemy, it was a teacher. It taught you where your attachments were misplaced and where your soul truly belongs. It showed you that peace was never in what you lost, but in who you turned to during your loss. Pain doesn't just break hearts, it rebuilds them stronger, purer, and more anchored in love for Allah. Through pain, you don't just heal, you awaken. Dua is the language of the heart when words fall short. It is that sacred moment when you lift your trembling hands and pour out everything you've been holding inside. It's not just about asking for something, it's about surrendering everything. When you whisper your pain to Allah, you are saying, "I cannot, but you can." You are acknowledging your weakness before the one whose power knows no limits. In dua, there is no pretense, no mask, only raw honesty. It's the purest conversation between the created and the creator. The moment your heart kneels even before your body does. Every dua you make, even the ones you think go unanswered, are seen, heard, and treasured. Allah never turns away a heart that calls upon Him. Sometimes He gives you what you ask for. Sometimes He delays it for a wisdom you can't yet see. And sometimes He replaces it with something far greater than what you had imagined. But He always responds. The silence you feel after your dua is not neglect. It's divine timing. It's Allah preparing you, shaping you, and teaching you that true peace doesn't come from getting what you want, but from trusting the one who decides what's best. Dua transforms pain into power. It takes your despair and turns it into hope. Each time you make dua through tears, you are proving that your faith is alive, that even in your weakest state, you believe in His mercy. And that belief is healing in itself. The heart that continues to call upon Allah cannot remain broken for long, because every moment spent in remembrance is a step toward wholeness. Dua doesn't change Allah's plan. It changes you. It softens your heart, clears your vision, and teaches you to rely completely on the one who never fails. When you raise your hands, you are connecting heaven and earth. That simple act carries weight in the unseen. Angels write down your words, even your sighs. Your dua ascends to the throne, and it never returns empty. Even if you don't see results immediately, know that something is always moving, always unfolding for your good. Sometimes, Allah holds back your request, not because you are unworthy, but because He loves you too much to give you something that might harm your soul. His delay is protection, His silence is mercy, and His response is always perfect. So never underestimate the power of dua. It is your lifeline when you feel lost, your comfort when no one understands, your bridge from brokenness to healing. Keep making dua, even when you don't have the words. Even when your heart is too tired to speak, let your tears become your prayer. For the one who continues to call upon Allah will never be abandoned. Every raised hand, every whispered plea, every tear that falls in His remembrance is a seed of light that will one day bloom into peace. Healing truly begins when you stop searching for closure in people and situations that were never meant to give it. You spend days replaying words, moments, and endings, hoping that one more explanation or apology will make the pain disappear. But the truth is, No amount of human reassurance can fix what was meant to be healed only by Allah. When you stop chasing answers from creation and start seeking peace through the Creator, your heart finally begins to rest. Closure is not found in conversations. It's found in quiet acceptance that Allah's wisdom is greater than your understanding. Sometimes, the hardest part of healing is accepting that you may never know why something happened the way it did. You may never hear the apology you deserve or get the closure you crave. But Allah saw every tear, every effort, and every unspoken word. His knowledge of your pain is enough. What others overlook, He records. What others take for granted, He will reward. When you shift your focus from what was done to you to what Allah is teaching you, the same pain that once weighed you down becomes the very reason you rise again. There's a quiet strength in letting go. Not because you no longer care, but because you have chosen peace over chaos. You realize that holding on to bitterness or unanswered questions only keeps your heart trapped in the past. True healing comes when you stop demanding explanations and start trusting that Allah's plan has a purpose, even when it hurts. The wound may have been caused by people, but the healing always comes from Allah. And when He heals, He doesn't just mend what was broken. He makes it stronger, purer, and more at peace than before. Every time you resist the urge to reopen an old wound, you are choosing growth. Every time you turn your pain into prayer, instead of complaint, you are moving closer to healing. Allah replaces what is taken with something better, but only when your heart is ready to receive it. Trust that His timing is never late and His wisdom never flawed. Sometimes what you call loss is actually protection. Sometimes what you think is an ending is a doorway to something far greater than you ever imagined. Healing, then, is not about forgetting or pretending it never happened. It's about remembering with peace. It's about looking back and saying, that broke me, but it also built me. It's realizing that Allah was with you in every sleepless night, every unanswered question, every silent prayer. When you release the need for closure from creation, you open your heart to the ultimate closure that only comes from your Creator, the peace that says, I may not understand it, but I trust that He does. And in that trust, you finally find the healing you were searching for all along. Faith grows quietly in the spaces where no one sees you. It's not always in the grand moments of strength, but in the hidden nights when your heart aches and your hands still rise in prayer. It's in the whispered, La Allah, that escapes your lips even when you're unsure what to ask for. In those unseen moments, your soul is being shaped. Every tear that falls in the darkness becomes a seed of light that blooms in your heart. You may not realize it now, but each time you choose to turn to Allah instead of giving up, your faith deepens in ways you cannot measure. Healing is never instant. There are mornings when you wake up and the pain still lingers, and nights when your dua feels like it's floating into silence. But in that waiting, Allah is working. He is rearranging your heart, cleansing it of attachments and strengthening your trust. The delay you feel is not rejection, it's preparation. The longer you wait, the more your soul learns patience, and patience is one of the highest forms of worship. It's proof that you believe in Allah's timing more than your own desire for relief. Faith is not tested in moments of ease. It is tested in the silence after your dua. That silence is sacred. It's where your sincerity is revealed. Do you still trust Allah when you can't see His plan? Do you still believe when your heart is heavy? True faith is choosing to say, Alhamdulillah, even when you don't understand. It's refusing to let pain turn into bitterness, and instead allowing it to turn into surrender. That quiet endurance is what keeps the heart alive, even when the world feels cold. Every trial you face is an opportunity to prove your love for Allah. When you keep praying through confusion, when you keep believing through heartbreak, you are telling your Lord that your faith is not based on outcomes. It's based on love. And love that survives pain becomes unshakable. Allah sees those hidden moments when you could have walked away, but stayed. When you could have despaired, but hoped. Those are the moments that elevate you, that draw you closer to Him in ways blessings never could. So, if your dua hasn't been answered yet, don't lose heart. Keep showing up for your prayers. Keep whispering your hopes. Keep holding on even when it hurts. Because faith grows in the unseen, in the waiting, in the in-between. One day, you will look back and realize that every unanswered prayer was not forgotten. It was answered in a better way, at a better time. Allah was never silent. He was writing your story with wisdom far greater than your understanding. When you finally rise from the depths of despair, you realize you are no longer the same person you once were. The storm that tore through your heart has reshaped you. It stripped away your illusions and showed you what truly matters. You begin to see that the breaking was never meant to destroy you, but to rebuild you on a foundation of sincerity and faith. Every moment you thought you couldn't survive became a step toward discovering your inner strength. A strength that was always there, waiting to be awakened through pain. As you look back, you start to understand that healing doesn't mean erasing the past or pretending the hurt never existed. It means looking at the scars and seeing signs of Allah's mercy written across them. You no longer resent the storm because it brought you closer to the one who controls it. Through the pain, you found a connection deeper than words. A quiet companionship with Allah that no human presence could ever replace. The same wounds that once made you cry now remind you of how far you've come and how gently Allah carried you through when you thought you were alone. The journey from despair to dua is not a single moment of transformation. It's a slow unfolding, a process of rebirth. It's when your heart learns to beat differently, not for the world, but for its creator. You begin to find comfort not in answers, but in trust. You stop asking, when will this end? And start saying, whatever you will, I accept. In that surrender lies your peace. The heaviness of grief slowly turns into lightness, not because life becomes easier, but because your soul learns where to rest. When you experience this rebirth, your relationship with Allah changes. Dua is no longer just a request. It becomes your lifeline, your home, your refuge. You find yourself turning to Him in gratitude, not only in need. The same heart that once cried out of pain now cries out of love. You realize that what broke you was, in truth, a gift. It was Allah guiding you back, teaching you dependence, purifying your intentions, and preparing your heart for closeness. The storm did not ruin you, it refined you. And when you finally emerge, you stand softer yet stronger, quieter yet more alive. You carry the peace that comes from knowing Allah never abandoned you, not for a moment. Despair may have brought you to your knees, but it was dua that lifted you higher than you've ever been. Above your fears, above your pain, and closer to the one who heals hearts, restores hope, and writes beauty even in the chapters you thought were meant for your end. That is the essence of healing, not to return to who you were, but to become who you were always meant to be. So when life feels heavy and your heart trembles under its weight, remember this: despair is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your return. Every heartbreak that brings you to your knees is actually guiding you closer to the one who can lift you higher than ever before. Every tear that falls in prayer is seen, every whispered, "Ya Allah," is heard. The darkness you walk through is not a punishment. It is preparation for the light that awaits. One day, you will look back and realize that the moments you thought were breaking you were actually the moments Allah was rebuilding you. From despair to dua, that is the journey of every soul that dares to trust, to hope, and to heal.